Today marks the return of one of the most beloved decks ever. Birthing Pod is back.
But I thought Pod was banned.
Don't be silly, Timmy. So anyway, because Birthing Pod is banned, we're going to have to get creative, using the 4-mana legendary creature, Prime Speaker Vannifar. Vannifar has the same ability as Birthing Pod, to tap, sacrifice a creature, to find another creature with +1 casting cost, and put it into play. Once we're able to activate Vannifar, we can combo kill with as little as a fetch land in play. But as you can see, this combo has more moving parts than a rickety old roller coaster.
Hey, can I ride the roller coaster?
Don't be silly, little Timmy. You're not tall enough for this ride. Ha, kids. So hold on tight, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. Alright everybody, please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. This is going to be a crazy one. Alright, this is match 1. We are on the draw. Opening 7, not great, but I think it's a keep. Opponent with an Inspiring Vantage and a Lava Spike. We're down to 17. Drawn to a Vannifar. We'll start on an Overgrown Tomb tapped and pass the turn. Second Inspiring Vantage and a Roiling Vortex. We're going down to 16. Drawn to a Spara's Headquarters. We're going to play out our Beseiju and we'll pass the turn. Opponent's down to 19. A second Roiling Vortex, sure. Sacred Foundry tap. Yield to the end step. We'll flash in a Bowmaster. Put our opponent down to 18. Untap, we're going to take 2 down to 14. And we draw into a Tyvar, which is actually really good. I'm going to play out this Verdant Catacombs. I'm going to fetch. We'll get ourselves a basic. We're going to move to combat. Swing for 1. We'll play out Tyvar. Untap the Orc Army. Pass turn back. Opponent's down to 15. Wooded Foothills. Nothing else back our way. We're going down to 11 life. We draw into Renegade Rallier. Okay, we have a kill if they don't kill our creatures. We're going to fetch. We're going to shock in a Breeding Pool. We're going down to 8 life. Very dangerous. We're going to play out Vannifar. Vannifar resolves. I'm going to activate Vannifar, sacrifice the Orc Army. We're going to get Quirion Ranger. We're going to untap Vannifar, return Forest to hand, untap, sacrifice the Quirion Ranger. We'll get the Corridor Monitor. Monitor is going to trigger, untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice Bowmaster, get Village Bell Ranger. It's going to trigger, untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Monitor, get a Recruiter. Recruiter is going to trigger. We'll get a Giver of Runes. We're going to activate Tyvar to untap Vannifar. Opponent's responding with a Skull Crack, putting us down to 5. Vannifar untaps. We're going to sack the Recruiter. We're going to get a Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel is going to blink the Bell Ranger. Untap Vannifar. Activate. We're going to sacrifice Restoration Angel. And our opponent scoop. And they concede the match. They've had enough. We're 1-0. And after an interesting round 1, this is round 2. We're on the play. So 7 would be great if we had another land. It is a little sketchy without, but I think I'm going to keep. Let's be risky here. Seems to be the theme. Start with our Dryad Arbor. We'll pass turn. Opponent with Basic Forest. Alright, we get away with it. Back our way. Drawn to a Lair of the Hydra, which is good. We'll play that out. 2 mana for a Devoted Druid. We'll pass turn back. I didn't mention in the intro to today's video, but this deck actually has 3 additional combos built around Devoted Druid in combination with Vizier of Remedies. Druid is a great addition to this deck because when put under Agatha's Soul Cauldron, it allows us to put the Druid's ability on Vannifar, which provides an extra untap for free. Or we can use Cauldron to put Vannifar's ability on other creatures. Opponent with an Inkmoth, Zabaz. Automaton's going to go up to 2. 2 mana for a Ravager. Automaton up to 3. Attack at Tyvar. We actually want to put a creature in our graveyard, so we are more than happy to block here. Back our way. Drawn to a Breeding Pool. This is more than enough. We'll shock in the Breeding Pool. We'll put Vannifar into play. We're going to sacrifice the Halfling. We'll get a Vizier. This is going to be infinite mana. We're going to add a little extra mana. We'll untap Vannifar. We'll activate Vannifar, sacrifice Dryad Arbor, get our Quirion Ranger. Quirion Ranger, we're going to tap Vannifar. We'll return the Breeding Pool. We'll activate, sacrifice the Ranger, get the Monitor. Monitor, untap the Vannifar. Activate the Vannifar, sacrifice the Monitor. We'll get Recruiter into Ballista, and the opponent scoops. We're up a game. Who's having fun? For this matchup, we're going to pull 2 Giver of Runes, Restoration Angel, Prime Speaker, Vannifar, and the Ballista combo, specifically the Ballista, and bring in some removal and artifact hate. Okay, and it appears I forgot to actually pull out the cards I just submitted, so we have a 65 card deck. Unfortunately, we're going to mulligan. My sideboarding blunder led to a very uneventful game as the ratios of lands to spell were all out of whack. I corrected my error for Game 3. Let's skip ahead to it. We'll take the play for Game 3. 7 looks acceptable, we'll keep it. Start with our fetch land, pass the turn. Inkmoth Nexus, fetch end of turn, we'll get our headquarters. Untap. Draw into Force of Vigor, which is nice. We'll play out our swamp and pass it back. Opponent plays out a Cauldron. We're going to flash in a Bowmaster end of turn. We'll one them. Draw into a Halfling, which isn't bad. Play out a Plains, we're going to move to combat. Attack with the team. Play out a Tyvar. We'll untap our Orc army. Pass it back. Opponent with an Urza Saga. Trigger. Haywire Might. Arcbound Ravager. Draw land, we win. Untap. Devoted Druid. I think this should still be a win. 2 mana for Devoted Druid. Into a Halfling. Halfling adds blue. Untap the Halfling. Halfling adds green. Untap the Devoted Druid. Green, black, Vannifar. Okay, we're going to activate Vannifar, sacrifice the Bowmaster. We're going to get a Bell Ranger. It's going to untap everybody. We're going to sack the Orc army, get a Quirion Ranger. We're going to untap Vannifar, return that to our hand. 1 mana, 2 mana. We're going to sacrifice Halfling to get the Corridor Monitor. We're going to untap Vannifar. I'm going to sacrifice the Quirion Ranger, and I'm going to get a Vizier. We're going to untap our Druid. I could cycle the Spar's headquarters looking for a blue source, and if I find a blue source, I'll win. So let's start there. And we found it, okay. We're going to fetch. Get our breeding pool, shock it in. We'll add a green, untap, green, untap, green, Hippocamp, untap, activate, sacrifice the Hippocamp, get our Kiki Jiki. Kiki Jiki target the Ranger, untap everybody, do it again, and we have a kill. Now, opponent scoops, we're 2-0. Who's having fun yet? Match 3. We're on the play. We'll take it. 7 is interesting. I think we're going to keep. Opponent starts with the Gemstone Caverns. Opponent exiles a basic forest. Maybe scales again. We'll start with our headquarters. Pass turn. Misty Rainforest fetch. Basic forest. And Crashing Footfalls on suspend. 2 footfalls on suspend. Okay. We draw into a Quirion Ranger. I think we're going to play our Temple Garden tapped and our Quirion Ranger. And we'll pass the turn. Footfalls down to 3. Opponent with the 3rd land. Back our way. Alright, we draw to a Halfling, which isn't bad. We're going to play out our Verdant Catacombs. I'm going to fetch. I think we're just going to get a basic swamp here. So we're going to play out a Cauldron. Opponent fetches. See if they're countering this. Basic Island. Feels like a Force of Negation. It is. We're very happy about that. And a Halfling. We'll attack for 1 and then pass the turn back. Footfalls taking down. Lorien revealed. Steam Vents. Tapped. We untap. Draw into a Tyvar. I believe Tyvar gives us the kill next turn. We'll play out Tyvar. Yeah, we are very close to a kill. We're going to add blue mana. Quirion Ranger, untap the Halfling. Uptick Tyvar, untap Halfling again. Opponent has fire for the Halfling. That's unfortunate. Halfling down. Unfortunately, can't use Tyvar. Play our Temple Garden tapped. Attack for 1. Pass turn back. Footfalls down to 1. Opponent with another Lorien revealed. Sure. They get a Triome. Cycle the Triome, draw a card. Back our way. Draw into our Village Bell Ringer. None of these cards are really what we want to see in our hand. Let's minus our Tyvar, use its ability, put Halfling into play, cast out Vannifar, activate it. We're going to sacrifice the Halfling, get our Devoted Druid, untap Vannifar, sack the Quirion Ranger, get our Vizier. We're going to add infinite mana, and we're going to cast a Finale for a lot. We'll play out our Temple Garden, we'll shock that in, and cast our Bell Ringer. It's going to trigger, untap all of our creatures. We're going to cast Finale for 20. We'll get an Imperial Recruiter. It's going to trigger, get a Walking Ballista, cast a Ballista. Okay, opponent scoops. Rep a game. Okay, we just need ways to slow our opponent down. We're going to board out 2 Finales, 3 Bowmasters, a Cauldron, and a Prime Speaker Vannifar. And we're going to bring in Chalice, Strandeth Magistrate, Fulminator, Kitchen Fang, Solitude, and 2 Fatal Pushes. 7 looks good, we'll keep it. Opponent with a Misty, nothing else. Draw into a Forest, play that out, into our Halfling. Opponent fetches end of turn, Stomping Ground, shock, looks like our Halfling is dying. Dead. Basic Island from our opponent, back our way. It looks like we're getting iced down as well, brutal. Drawn to a Verdant Catacombs.
A turn 3 Shardless Agent cascades into some Rhinos, and I'm on the clock. I play out 2 mana creatures with hopes of drawing into a Tyvar to secure victory on my next turn. But no Tyvar, and my opponent is strongly representing a subtlety, so I play around it and flash in my Restoration during combat to soak up some damage. But a post-combat Fury puts the nail in the coffin and wipes my board.
We'll scoop it up. Game 3, we're going to bring our Finales back in. Take the play. Move 7. We're lacking lands. Unfortunately, we can't keep this. Opponent keeps their 7. This hand also lacking lands, but has a really strong potential to combo on turn 3, so I think we're going to keep it. Get rid of our Solitude. Thicket, Halfling, pass the turn. Opponent's turn 1, let's see what they've got. Misty Rainforest, fetch, hopefully not a removal spell. Stomping Ground, shock, And the footfalls. Okay, we're in business. Step 2, dodging a Fury. Drawn to a Magistrate, not bad. We'll play out our Devoted Druid. Pass the turn. Footfalls down to 3. Otawara, and they get rid of our Devoted Druid. Unfortunate. Alright, we draw another land, which isn't bad. Play that out. It's attacking for 1. And we're going to play out a Draenith Magistrate. Resolves. Footfalls down to 2. Basic Forest. Flame of Anor, get rid of our Magistrate. Untap. Drawn to a Vizier. Can't really do much with that. We can't even cast our Finale, unfortunately. I'll play out the Vizier, and we're going to attack. Swing for 1. Footfalls down to 1. Wooded Foothills. Here come the Rhinos. Need to draw land this turn. When we get there, we'll shock that in. Play out our Vannifar, and we need this to survive. Opponent fetches during their upkeep. Steam Vents, shock. Footfalls, coming off suspend. Lots of Rhinos. Opponent with a land. Attack for 10, we're going down to 8 life. Draw to Tyvar, which is actually really interesting because it gives us a couple of different ways to win from here. So I think we're going to play that out to start with. Play out Tyvar. We're going to minus Tyvar. Opponent fires our Vizier and our Tyvar. We lost our Renegade Rallier, which is unfortunate. Okay, I think we might be able to do this still. We'll get the Draenith Magistrate back. We're going to sacrifice the Halfling. We're going to get Corridor Monitor. Monitor is going to untap. We're going to sacrifice the Magistrate. We're going to get Imperial Recruiter. Recruiter is going to find our Quirion Ranger. We're going to play out the Quirion Ranger. We're going to untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Recruiter. We're going to get our Hippocamp. It's going to untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Monitor. We're going to get the Ranger. Ranger triggers. Untaps everything. We need our opponent not to have another removal spell as well. We're going to sack their Hippocamp. We're going to get Kiki Jiki. We're going to activate Kiki Jiki. Copy. Untap everything. Let's do it again. And again. And our opponent scoops. We're 3-0.
But my good fortune came to an abrupt halt when I got paired against Domain Zoo and ran into mana troubles in back-to-back games, which resulted in me getting run over. There wasn't anything particularly exciting about this match, so we're just going to skip ahead to match 5 with a 3-1 record. It's round 5 and we get paired into Blue-Red Murktide, and our mana troubles from last round seem to follow us into this round. Our opponent leads with a Ragavan, which normally wouldn't be an issue if we were able to curve out. However, we never draw any lands besides the ones that were in our opening hand, which might have had something to do with the monkey exiling them every single turn. We're down a game, but what's good for us is that our opponent has no idea what we're doing. Let's move on to game 2.
This is brutal, not finding any lands. 22 lands in the deck, we'll mulligan. And we don't have any black sources once again, but I think we're going to keep this and hope to draw something. We'll bottom Temple Garden, start with our Breeding Pool tapped, pass turn. Opponent with a Misty Rainforest fetch, Steam Vent Shock, and a Dragon's Rage. I'd rather that than a Ragavan. We'll untap. Drawn to a Halfling. We're going to get this Cauldron down. We'll play in our Thicket into the Cauldron. Pass the turn. Opponent Preordain, trigger the Channeler. Blood Moon to the graveyard, good to know about. 0 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Attack for 1, and opponent's missing their second land. We're going to eat the Blood Moon. Untap. Drawn to a Solitude. We'll play out our basic plains, and we're going to try to ambush them with the Bell Ringer. Opponent untaps, draws for turn. Doesn't appear they have a land. No attacks. Guess they're playing around an Endurance here. Preordain. Keep a card on top, which means there's a land on top. I put 2 on top, a second Channeler, and I think I'm going to play out my Bell Ringer here. Not what my opponent was expecting. We'll eat one of these Preordains, back our way. Love a land, not a Fatal Push. I'll play on our Halfling, no attacks, pass it back. Opponent with a Bobble, trigger, twice. Unholy Heat to the graveyard, Steam Vents to the graveyard. Unholy Heat, targeting the Halfling, Spirebluff Canal to the graveyard, and a Mishra's Bobble to the graveyard. Halfling down. Opponent moves to combat, swings with the team. We're going to eat the Preordain, move to blocks, block one of the Channelers. Go down to 18 life. Opponent with the Bobble, look at their top card. Fetch land, fetch, basic island, back our way. They draw a card off their Bobble, and we finally draw a fetch land. Start with combat, swing for 1, 4 damage. We're going to eat a Channeler. Opponent takes 2. They untap, consider, trigger the Channeler, land to the graveyard, lots of lands. Preordain to the graveyard, Channeler 3/3. Combat, attack, no blocks, before damage, we'll fetch, get our basic swamp, and we'll Fatal Push. 2 mana Murktide Regent. Untap, drawn to a second Cauldron. We're going to eat our Halfling, counter on the Ringer, 5 mana cast out Solitude. Hit the Regent, pass the turn. Opponent with an Iteration, Spirebluff Canal, play that out, 1 mana, bolt down the Solitude. Untap, draw into a Vannifar, which is pretty good. Start with combat, attack for 3, put them down to 15, play out Vannifar, and we're going to eat the Channeler. Counter on the Vannifar. Pass it back. Opponent with a Preordain, they put 2 on the top, cast an Iteration. Unholy Heat revealed, they heat the Bell Ringer. Back our way. Draw into a Bowmaster. 2 mana Bowmaster. Hit them for 1. I'm going to add a green mana, activate Vannifar, sack the Orc Army, get a Quirion Ranger. Quirion Ranger, untap Vannifar, return the land to our hand. We're going to sacrifice the Ranger. We're going to get Corridor Monitor. Monitor is going to trigger, untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Monitor, get our Rallier. Rallier is going to trigger, return the Monitor, comes into play, untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Rallier. I'm going to get a Restoration Angel. Angel's going to trigger, flicker the Monitor. Monitor is going to untap Vannifar. We're going to sacrifice the Bowmaster, get an Endurance. Endurance is going to trigger targeting them. We're going to play a Breeding Pool, tapped. We're going to eat our Quirion Ranger. We're going to put it on the Restoration Angel. Return Forest to untap Vannifar, activate Vannifar, sack the Endurance, get another Restoration Angel. Angel's going to trigger the Monitor. It's going to untap Vannifar, activate Vannifar, sack the Angel, get a Kiki-Jiki. We're going to activate Kiki-Jiki, targeting Restoration Angel. It's going to trigger, target Kiki-Jiki. Kiki-Jiki copied, activate copy Restoration Angel, playing Kiki-Jiki. Do it again, and we are going to game 3. Crazy.
And I wish I could tell you things ended on a high note, but they didn't, as our opponent stuck a Blood Moon in game 3 and locked us out. So a 3-2 record for this new brew seems like a good starting point, but the mana issues that plague the final 2 rounds definitely need to be addressed. How would you fix the mana problems with this deck? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all again very soon. Until then, you know the deal. Be well, my friend.